guys, welcome back to the channel. Thanks to all you new subscribers for joining the channel recently. We've had a ton of new guys jump on and subscribe, so welcome. Thanks for coming along for the ride. Today we are actually going to continue something that we started a long time ago. We have a video way back in the history. It's installing ECMLINK and learning it, part 1. Basically, we bought the whole kit off of extremepsi.com. We found ourselves a 95 2G ECU with an EEPROM chip in it, and we put it all together in the car with a AEM wideband, got it all wired up and logging. And you guys can go check that out if you want some more in-depth information on how to get started with it. But this car is running a 3-inch GM MAF sensor. It had stock 450cc injectors at the time. If you have the stock MAF and the stock injectors, or the stock MAF and aftermarket injectors, or like I have aftermarket MAF and aftermarket injectors, you can get all this stuff set up and you can get your car fired up and running pretty quickly. Thanks to Tom Doris and all the guys over at ECM Tuning who put together an extremely user-friendly interface. You can hop on there and you can data log for yourself. You can get your car started and have some real fun with it. I know it's kind of nerve-wracking in the beginning to jump in there and start messing around with your timing tables, start messing around with your fuel tables, changing sensors, pulling things out and plugging in different sensors in their place. Removing stock equipment and putting aftermarket stuff in is kind of nerve-wracking, and getting the wiring correct. But once you get a grasp on it, it's not that hard. And I wanted to kind of bring you guys back through some of the stuff that I've learned and hopefully shed some light on some of the questions. Tons of you guys reached out to me through Instagram, over on our Facebook page, and you guys had a lot of questions about how to dial in your MAF and get it calibrated, how to start up your speed density table, how to set up the ECU for bigger fuel injectors, get your fuel trims close, what to log. So in this episode, I want to kind of touch on some of those points, see if some of this information can go over into your brain and help you figure some of this stuff out the way I figured it out. And again, I spent months researching this system before I purchased it because I was afraid. I didn't know if I would buy it, hook it all up, and then have a non-driving car sitting in my driveway out here. So it was definitely super nerve-wracking. So I'll go through a couple of the things with you guys that I learned that helped me, and some of the awesome tools that are in ECMLINK that really help you dial things in the correct way, get close so you can start your car, start driving around, start doing some logs, and I'll show you some of the things that you need to log. So one other thing, if you guys want to hop over, everybody that's asked me about how to support the channel, if we have a PayPal, if we have, you know, merchandise or any of that stuff, we did do a very short run of merch with Teespring, and I recently hopped back on that, got that rerunning, reposted everything, got a bunch of stickers and stuff on there. So if you're interested in supporting the channel or you found the video helpful, we don't do a whole lot on Patreon yet, but we do have a Teespring storefront set up. So the link is in the description, or you can go to teespring.com/stores/today'sprojectguide. And later today, we should have our domain set up, so you should be able to go to today'sprojectguide.com, and it should take you straight to it. If you guys want to buy a sticker or one of our bags or a t-shirt or something, hop on over there and help support the channel if we've helped you guys figure out your stuff. So no more talking here. Let's hop in the car. Let's plug in the computer. Let's get some logs going, and we'll kind of step by step it and get you guys hopefully running correct. Alright guys, so first thing is first. We're in the car and we have our laptop plugged in. We have the key in the on position and the engine off. So a lot of you guys were having some issues with things. You just bought V3 and you didn't do a firmware update. So you have to go over to ECMLINK, go to their website, and you have to go into the Downloads tab, and you're going to create a firmware request, and you're going to save that to your computer wherever you want to. You can save it to your desktop in a new folder, and then you're going to open up ECMLINK, and you're going to be prompted to flash the updated version of ECMLINK to the ECU, and that'll resolve quite a few problems. So make sure you're upgraded, make sure you have the newest data, or the newest firmware rather, installed. And once you come into the ECU in your laptop here, you open up your main screen and you can click on connect. Once you do that, it should come up with your data down here, the firmware option. Here, let me get a better angle at this. This is gonna be tough. It's a tiny car, I'm a big guy. Let's go down in here and take a look. So if you look down in the bottom right corner, We are on version 3.36.64, and that's the version that you guys want to have installed, which is the latest firmware for ECMLINK. So now that we're in here, now that we're upgraded, we are going to connect. And the first thing you got to do here is click the connect button. It's going to run through its little paces down here at the bottom, check all the sensors that it has, and it's going to say connected. And the bottom left it says COM7 connected ECMLINK in 2G DSM V3. So up at the top, you can start a stream, you can start a capture, or you can open a previous data log. Now when you install ECMLINK, it puts all these file folders in your computer system so you can go back through and access data logs, which is a huge tool. And first thing you can do here is you can click on Start Stream. Stream is just going to show you live data of everything that you've put down here in your log screen. All the different fuel trims, combined, ISC position, airflow speed, AEM wideband, anything that you want to click on and log is on this screen. So we're going to pretend that we plugged in for the first time and we have different fuel injectors hooked up and we have to get this car started. Okay, so once you've got everything plugged in and your firmware updated, first thing you're going to want to do is check out your stream. You're going to hop in here and just see what kind of information you have being logged. And this is the number one question I get all the time is, how do I set up my log screen to look like yours? Well, it's pretty easy. You see all these things at the bottom? There's two ways you can do it. You can right click on it and you can come down to displayed values, and everything that's in this left column here, and you can go all the way up and down it. There's about 100 different things you can go through. All you do is you click one of them and you click add to display, and it's going to bring it from this column here, which is an available values, over to the to be displayed column. And once you do that, it's going to pop up down here at the bottom. So you can do that and get all of these different parameters added. You can go into raw values and you can get your MAF Hertz raw, which is a very important one if you're a MAF tuning person. If you have a MAF sensor hooked up, GM 3-inch, a stock one, an Evo, a 1G, whatever you got, that's how you do it. Once you're done, you hit OK, and it will pop up on this display right here, and you'll have all these different parameters. You can reorganize them however you'd like. To reorganize them, if you want to put stuff, stack it on top or have it all across the top line, you have to move it around here with the up and the down button that are in this pop-up box. If you want to move the AF ratio estimate all the way at the top, where right here I have knock retard, that's my number one, I would just click on it and I would click up a bunch of times till it's all the way at the top. Everything is set up in landscape. So each box is, this is 1, 2, 3, and 4, spot number 5, 6, 7, and 8. So if I want to have knock retard and then AEM wideband below it, I'm going to have to, in that pop-up window, put knock retard as number 1, and then number 5 have an AEM wideband, and so on, and go down the list. So I have mine stacked vertically. That's just how I like it. If you like it some way that's different, change it up. Alright, so you stop your stream. If you don't see what you want to see in that log screen, if that option that you're looking for isn't there, you're going to go back over here into ECU Config Live. You're going to click on that, and you're going to come all the way down to the bottom of the page where you see Ecu Inputs. That tab is where, if you're changing a sensor, or like I've swapped out my MDP sensor on the manifold and installed my Omni Power 3-bar map sensor in its place so I can log boost. This is where I have to go in and tell the ECU what sensor I wired and where I wired it. So I just chose the MDP location and clicked on this. A drop-down box popped out, and I chose the OmniPower 3-bar map sensor, and I went into the bottom right and clicked save, and now my ECU knows that where the MDP sensor is, it's now an OmniPower 3-bar map sensor. So I can run speed density with my GM IAT, which is also installed and wired in. If you guys have the ECMLINK breakout harness for the MAF sensor, it works great for wiring in speed density, or you can have both set up like I do. I'm still learning speed density and getting that set up. So anyways, back to what we were talking about. If there's a value you don't see on your log screen and you want to add it, the ECU Inputs tab, you'll see this box right here says captured values. You can click on this, and it's similar to your log screen. It'll show a column of everything that you can add to your screen and log, and everything that's already in the system to be logged. So you can scroll through this whole list. There's another sub list of raw values you can go through, and all you have to do is click the device or click the item and add to device and then hit OK. Once you're done with that, you can come back over into your log screen, right click on it, click captured values at the bottom of the pop-up, and that new item that you just added should be in here someplace. You just have to look. It's all in alphabetical order. Something else that's really important that you want to remember during the first start or the first capture, the first log that you make, consider that your backup. So anything that you mess with from this point on, you already have one started and one stopped log, stream, or a capture, whatever you want to call it. You'll have one file saved from initially plugging in, checking out your log screen. That's going to have basically all your information for your ECU. If you go in and start messing with anything at all, you can always revert back, because now you can come back over to this page, go to open, and go to that very first log you made, and you can double click on that, and when it pops open, this has all of the information in your ECU before you mess with it any further saved. So all the stock stuff is all saved. You can revert back. There's some stuff on the ECMLINK page that you can download if you mess with your timing table and want to go back. They have timing tables, they have fuel maps, they have a bunch of stuff on there. So I like to have my very first log saved as my first log, so if I ever need to revert back, it's kind of like a restore point in Windows, for lack of better words. If you mess up something and you don't like it and you can't remember what you messed with, you can always go right back and save the first log you ever made, so everything's stock and fresh and unadulterated. So now that we've got that out of the way, now that we know how to set up our log screen, we are going to try to start the car. And in my case, we ended up putting in some 750cc fuel injectors. So with those fuel injectors, you can't just swap them out and start your car. That's just not going to work, because the ECU thinks it has 450s in it, so it's not going to give you enough gas, or it'll give you too much, and your car will run like crap if it starts, and it will stall out and spit and sputter, and it's just a bad time. So we're going to want to get that stuff squared away. So first thing you do is you come in here, before you fire your car up, you're going to connect. You're going to put the key in the on position, you're going to connect, you're going to go to Ecu Config Live. Now we're going to go, because we're using 750cc fuel injectors, we're going to jump into the fuel tab. Now that we're in the fuel tab, you're going to see this graph right here. It's another plot chart that's similar to your MAF comp, but we're not going to be messing with these sliders at all. What we're going to do instead is we're going to hop back over to the ECMLINK, ecmtuning.com/wiki/base injector data. And this table is a compilation of a bunch of different injector brands and types and sizes, and it gives you some very important information so you can get your car fired up. Alright, hopefully you guys can still hear me. The car is on now. So we're going to pretend we just started this thing up with a set of 750cc fuel injectors, which if we go back over here to our table, we're running fuel injector clinic 750s. So we had to go over and change the global to -40 and the dead time to 330. That's what the ECMLINK wiki says. And if we come over here and take a look, you can see that I'm at -40 and it goes -40.6. That's what ECMLINK automatically put in as the decimal place. And I do have a different dead time. It's a little bit higher than what they suggested. They want you to have it at 330, and I'm up a little bit. And I'll explain that to you. We started the car just now, so we're going to come over here and we're going to start a capture so I can give you guys a little bit more information on this. Alright, so if you look at this capture data, you'll see that we just started and our combined fuel trim is showing that it's lean 3 to 5%. It's fluctuating between 3 and 6 actually. We have our LTFT low, LTFT mid, LTFT high, and our short-term fuel trim all right here. These are some important numbers you want to log. So when the car is fired up, first thing, we're going to take a look at this number, and we're going to take a look at our wideband factor. Now, these numbers will fluctuate when the car is cold. It's at 124 degrees. Once it gets up to operating temp, that number should settle down, the combined fuel trim, and your wideband factor should settle down a lot also. So you don't want to make crazy drastic changes until you get some temp in the car and it starts to level out. Once it warms up, these numbers will get a lot closer to 0, which you want them to be, and then you can make your adjustments. But for sake of argument here, let's just go ahead and show you. If you start your car and this number's way out, say it's at minus 15%, saying that you're running 15% rich. Well, we log MAF raw so we can see that our idle hurt point, how much airflow is coming in, is in the 5 to 600 range. So our idle point over here in our ECMLINK live settings, if we go back into MAF comp, we know that on this chart the car is idling between 500 and 600 hertz. That's these 2 points right here. So if I have a ton of fuel and it's saying that I'm 15% rich and it says minus 15% back here, if it says minus 15% right here, says that it's pulling 15% of fuel out, I'm running really, really rich, I'm going to look at MAF raw and I'm going to say, hey, I'm at idle, I'm between 5 and 600 hertz, and I'm going to go back over to my ECMLINK live settings and I'm going to go to the 500 hertz point and I'm going to pull out 15% until I'm right about there, and I'm going to do the same at 600, and then I'm going to save it. Now, if this is where I'm idling 5 and 6, then these other points really don't matter too much, so I would just go over here and I would bring all the rest of them down so that they're in the same area as my idle is, because it's not really going to go any further. If the car goes into stall, you don't want to have it really lean. Say you, I don't know, you hit the gas funny or you shift funny, you don't want the engine RPM to drop so low that when it hits that airflow point, it's either dumping a bunch of fuel and stalls itself out, or it chokes itself out by not giving it enough. So I usually put my idle hertz points and everything below that on the same level. So if I was 15% rich and I moved my 5 and 6 down minus 15, I would bring the other ones below that point down also, and that's going to be the start of my table. So I now have everything below 500 and 600 lined up together. Now I'm going to go back in, after I save this, I'm going to go back over to my data log and I'm going to take a look and I'm going to see if this combined fuel trim number has dropped at all. If it's gone from minus 15 to minus 1 or 2 and gotten a little closer to 0, I'll be happy. Now, in the reverse, if this number here says it's 15% lean, if it doesn't show minus 15, it just shows 15 on here, and my wideband factor is showing 15%, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to grab my idle hertz point. It's still the same. If I look at my data log, I'm still between 5 and 600 hertz idle airflow hertz. So I'd go back over here into my settings, and wherever the 500 and 600 hertz points are, I'd go ahead and I would add 15%, and then I would bring everything below 5 and 600 up. So we're going to make those all the same. So now we've messed around, we've got the car to fire up, we've got our idle hertz figured out, our airflow points are at 5 and 600 hertz with a 3-inch GM MAF sensor. If you're running a stock MAF, it's going to be around 50 hertz, that'll be your idle point, but we figured out how to line up our fuel trims at idle so the car is not saying that we're running 15% rich or 15% lean and we don't have a huge wideband factor correction, and it's idling and it sounds fine. We're going to take it for a light drive around the block, and I mean no boost, don't rip on it. I'm talking a grandma drive, part throttle around the block, just to get a log, just to get some information so we can start making changes as needed. So we went around the block and we come back, we shut the car off, and we're going to take a look at the data. So first thing, we're going to look at our MAF raw point. Right here we are at 1000 hertz, and at the 1000 hertz point, which we also know corresponds to our MAF comp table, 1000 hertz is right here, that little dot right there. Now at that point, ECMLINK, if we look down here at our wideband factor, it says that at that point, at 1000 hertz, just driving around, we're going, 37 miles an hour with 12% throttle, nice and slow. At that point, 1000 hertz, it's saying that we need 9.8% fuel correction. So what we'll do is we'll go back into our MAF comp setting, and we will add at 1000, we're going to go ahead and add 9.8%, and we're going to leave it there. Now we're going to go to the next hertz point, which after 1000 would be 1100. So we're just going to keep going forward until we see an 1100 pop up. Right here's 1100 hertz. It's saying that we need to add 10% fuel. So we'll go back. We'll go into our settings, and we will go to the next point, and we will add our 10%. And we're going to keep doing this all the way through. We're going to do 10, 11, 1200 hertz, 1300, 1400, and we're just going to keep going through the list until we get up to, let's see, until we get to the highest hertz point that we just logged. We'll call it 1800 hertz, and we're going to look down at our wideband factor and our combined fuel trim, and we are going to try to get these plus or minus 5%. So we're going to go back in here. We're going to add our couple of percent that we need to add to correct what our wideband factor says. And when we're done, we are going to have a bunch of different points on our graph, and it may look something similar to this. So if you end up with this wavy, all over the place, somewhat jagged looking graph, you're going to want to go back through and kind of smooth this out just a little bit, because you want this to be a nice, smooth airflow chart. You don't want it to be, going crazy where after your idle is all nice, you got a point that goes way up like that or way down like this. You want to have a nice, smooth airflow chart or airflow graph. So you can go through and you can tinker with it just a little bit. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to lower one right here. And we're going to drop this one down just a tad, and this one a tad, and raise this one up some, within 1 or 2%. And then we end up with this nice, smooth transition here. Now that's where we're going to save it. And we're going to go back out again, and we're going to take another log. And we're going to keep an eye on our knock. We're not going to get into a bunch of boost yet. And we're going to see if this next log we have less correction on our wideband factor at each one of these hertz points. So I'm going to check the 1500 hertz point again after I've just made my corrections. I drove around, made another log. I'm going to go check this second log, and I'm going to say 1500 hertz. Hopefully I'm seeing closer to 0 or 5%. I want plus or minus 5%. One more thing I want to mention. If you're going through the paces and you're dialing in your airflow calculations and you're getting everything nice and calibrated for your MAF sensor, and you're going through the hertz points, and you end up stopping after you go on your light cruise at, we'll say, in this case, we stopped right here at this point. The furthest log I've got is 1800 hertz. I haven't gone higher than that yet. I haven't gotten into any boost yet. And you can see the rest of your graph drops off dramatically and is way down here. You don't want that, because that's going to be a lean spot. When you raise one of these, you're adding fuel. When you lower one of these, you're taking fuel away. So it's probably not going to be very good for your engine if all this is dialed in all the way up to the 1800 hertz points, and you're driving 45 miles an hour down the road. You hit 5 psi of boost, and then all of a sudden all your fuel disappears for the higher hertz points. You're going to be lean. You don't want that. So what you're going to want to do until you get up into these numbers, until you get past 1800 hertz in a log, carefully, obviously, you're not going to try to blow nothing up. You'll want to go down here, and you can actually highlight all these numbers that are above 1800 hertz. So we can double tap and drag all the way down to the top of the graph. So from 1900 to 3600 hertz, and you can hit the control up arrow, hit control then up arrow, and you're going to bring all this up to the 1800 hertz point, and that's where you're going to leave it until you start to log those higher hertz points, 18, 19, 20, 2100 hertz. You're going to want to at least have the same amount of fuel that 1800 hertz likes. So you'll save that to ECU. Then when you go in and you do your third log and everything looks good in the lower hertz points, and you're on part throttle cruising and nothing's going nuts, you're not having a whole bunch of correction, you're not getting a bunch of knock, you can start to give it a little bit more throttle and start getting into these medium hertz points, which would be in the lower boost range. If you're running wastegate pressure 12 psi, you can keep an eye on that, and make sure you're not knocking like crazy and add fuel accordingly. But Once you get up into 19, 20, 21, 22, 2300 hertz in your logs, you can make the corrections that you need to make like we did in the lower ones and make all the changes to these numbers as necessary. But you don't want to have them really low so it's just a drop off and you lose a bunch of fuel. So now that you've done your short drives around town and you've gotten up to city limits, you can't go faster than 30, 40 miles an hour, you're going to have to take this bad boy out on the highway and start doing some more tuning at some higher speeds. So we're not going to get into a bunch of boost yet. Let me close that out. We're just going to go jump on our local highway or county road and take it up to 50 to 70 miles an hour. Be gentle. Don't go ripping through the gears. Don't hit a bunch of boost yet. Hopefully you have your boost turned down. And you're going to try to stay out of boost and just go jump on the highway. What you're going to look for is that you have no knock, you have little to no correction, and your wideband factor is right around plus or minus 5%. In this case, we're driving down the highway and we're going, what are we doing? 77 miles an hour, going with a 0% correction, and we're only off 0.1%. So AF ratio estimate is the number that is pulled from your direct access table. If you are curious where this number comes from, this is the number that the ECU has programmed into it. This is off your fuel table in direct access. So at this point of the RPM band at 3,300 RPMs at the load factor we're at, which is a loggable value, you can load log factor, it says that it should be at 13.0 to 1 AFR, and you're just on the edge of it. Things are good. So you're going to do a log. You're going to make sure that your wideband and your air-fuel ratio estimates are overlapping on your graph. That's what you want. Keep an eye on your wideband factor. Drive it around down the highway. Put a little bit of load on the car, and make sure that your numbers line up. So if they don't, you're going to do the same thing that you did before to correct your idle. You're going to figure out what hertz point you're at, what correction wideband factor says, and you're going to go into your MAF comp table and you're going to make adjustments accordingly. So right here at 1500 hertz going with wideband factor, it says we're at minus 0.6, so it's taking away 0.6% of the fuel at that hertz, which is good. We're within plus or minus 5%, so we're going to leave it there. Okay, we got her fired back up. Now you've done your log one, you got your idle set up, you did a second log driving around town, dialing in your fuel, you did it again, get the higher hertz points figured all out, and you went for a nice highway drive, and you're all dialed in, and things are good. Your fueling looks correct, you're not way off anywhere, so now you can start creeping into a little bit of boost and just doing some light pulls. And you're going to keep an eye on your logs, and you're going to make sure that your lines are close to overlapping with your air-fuel ratio estimates and your wideband. You want them to be right over top of each other in the logs. So this blue line is boost. My red line on the bottom that's flat is knock. We have 0 degrees of knock. We're a little bit lean right here on this point, 0.2%, and I don't have any correction. Things are looking okay. So in this case, I went out and I did a little pull. So you can see in the bottom left right here, it'll show us boost. We went up to 19, looks like 19.1 pounds. So at 19.1 psi, we didn't get any knock. We were at 74% throttle, so we weren't quite maxed out, but everything looks okay. No knock. The AFR is 0.1% off, which is fine. We don't have a crazy wideband factor correction going on. We're not overheating. We didn't have a whole lot of timing there, but the main thing is we don't have knock, and we don't have a lot of correction here. So as you continue to go on and dial things in, you're going to get your hertz points all figured out. This is 2,579 hertz. So in ECMLINK under MAF comp, we're way up here at this point in our chart. We're at the 2,500 hertz point. So you can see that going from 18 to 25, there's not a whole lot of correction going on here. I didn't have to change a lot of stuff. It's relatively smooth, and that's a good thing. I'm obviously going to have to continue to tune this and mess around and dial these numbers in as perfectly as possible. And then we have a nice calibrated MAF sensor. We have correct fueling, and you're having a little bit of fun in your car finally. You're actually something else I wanted to touch on before we hang this up. You can see right here, for example, we have 0.7 degrees knock. So say your graph looks like this and you have correct fuel and your airflow is all dialed in perfectly and you guys can't get rid of the knock that you got. This is a small little amount of knock, 0.4, 0.7. Anything under degree is pretty small in my opinion, but you always want to tune for 0. So if something like this is still hanging on and you can't get rid of it, or say that you get a crazy amount of knock, say that this is, a 5 degrees of knock right at this point at 4,200 RPMs, you're getting that at 15 pounds of boost, well, chances are you might be running too much timing. Here we're only at 5 degrees timing advance in the beginning of this part, but maybe you're running too much timing. Maybe you're running 18 degrees and you have to figure out where exactly to take some timing out. There's 2 different ways you can do this. So again, if your fuel curves are nice, you don't have a bunch of correction on your wideband factor, and your combined fuel trims are all nice, you can go in and you can remove a degree of timing. And the first way to do this, it doesn't involve you shutting the car down and going into direct access, finding the cells and all that. You can actually use this first method here if you want to just change it on the fly and see if it fixes your problem. And if so, then later you can go in and change your direct access logs. So you can come over here to the timing table, which is underneath the fuel and just above MAFComp, and you'll see the same style graph that we had in MAFComp earlier, which is this graph right here. It's something similar, but this is for timing. So it shows you all the different RPMs from 2,000 all the way up to 10,000. So what you have to do is figure out in your log at what RPM are you getting knock. So in this case, it's at 4,200 RPMs, we're getting 0.7 degrees. So if we want to try and remedy this real quick, we can come in to the 4,000 RPM slider here, which it highlights here. It's this point right here. And if you hit Control and the down arrow, you're going to remove 1 degree of timing from the entire 4,000 RPM range. And I'll show you what I mean by entire. This is under direct access. This is the other way that you can fix this, but this is a fine-tuning scale. This you can get a lot more in depth. You can go individual cells, whereas if we go back over here into this table, every single one of these RPM rows is the entire row of this table. So if I'm in 4,000 and I take a degree out, it's going to take a degree out at every single one of these cells from top to bottom. So removing a degree from 4,000 turns this 33 into 32, 32 into 31, 30 to 29, all the way down the list. It takes 1 away. And that works for every single one of these rows here in this table right here under timing under Ecu Config Live. So if you want to see if you can remove this timing, this 1 degree of timing from 4,200 RPMs or 4,000 RPMs, you come in here, you click 4,000, you hit Control and the down arrow, or you can just click and drag it wherever you want. So we just removed a degree of timing from the whole 4,000 RPM band. Now we're going to go for a drive, and if the knock is gone, we know that pulling a degree out fixes it. So next time you're sitting around and you want to mess with it and get really in depth with it, this is a solution right here. But if you want to fine tune it, you can add that degree back. You can go back into your log and you can open up the direct access timing table and you can track data log in the top right, detach the table, and then in the top left you can click always on top, shrink this down a little bit so we can work with it, and we're going to go over to the, keep it in the middle of the 4,000 area in the center of the screen. We're going to go back over to our log, and if you click in the beginning of this little pull here, you'll see that this number is going to change as the RPMs and the load changes. It should drop down and move around, and that's where it's pulling its timing figure from. So the number that you see down here should be the same as the number you see right here, unless you get knock, which once we scroll the log forward, you see how the numbers are changing. Right here, it says we should be at, what is that, 6 degrees of timing advance. But because we have 0.7 degrees of knock, we're only getting 5.4 degrees of timing advance. So here's where you can fine tune. if this point right here in this graph is where that knock starts, you can remove 1 from that cell by hitting the control. You click, hold on a second here. We go to the spot where the knock starts, come back down here, and we click on this number 5 and hit control down, and then go to the cell next to it and hit control down. It will take 1 degree out. Now you can flash this table back to the ECU, and if you get to that point, you build your table and you need to do that, all you have to do is go back here, and under the direct access tab where you had the table detach, you can click detach table again, and you can see these darker cells. Actually, let me move this out of the way. You can see all these are the same font except for that one right there. 4 and 5 degrees are a little bit more bold than the rest because they've been changed and haven't been saved. So now with the key on engine off, you can hit copy all to ECU. You'll see your check engine light flash a few times, and this new table with that degree taken out at 4,000 and 5,000 RPMs or 4,000 and 4,500 RPMs, that will be flashed into the ECU, and now that should take away that knock that you were having. So, well, folks, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully some of this stuff's going to help a few of you out. I know there's a few of you guys, you know who you are, that have been emailing me back and forth, and I hope that some of this helps you guys figure some of this stuff out, shed a little bit of light on it, give maybe a little bit of insight from my experience with it. There are definitely more people that are well versed with this program compared to myself. I'm still, like I said again, I'm new at this and I'm still learning, but this thing seems to be running okay, and hopefully this helps you guys get your cars set up and gets them running okay as well. Maybe now you know a little bit more what to look for. If you set up your log screen so you can see this important information like the knock, your wideband is a must, your AFR ratio estimate, tongue twister. You want to see your wideband factor, your timing, your MAF raw, and your combined fuel trim. Those are some big ones that you definitely want to be logging for. Hopefully this has helped you a little bit. Hopefully you can get your new injectors, or even the injectors that are just in the car that you bought, dialed back in and get your MAF calibrated. And I think we're going to continue this little mini series here and start doing some more information on speed density, which is over here, and how to set up the speed density table, how to dial in your VE and switch over to speed density using a map sensor and a intake air temperature sensor, and getting rid of the MAF altogether. I'm almost there. I'm getting there slowly but surely. But anyways, guys, some other things. We did launch that store again, so if you do feel like supporting the channel and you want to throw a few dollars in the hat and get something cool out of it, we did release a couple more stickers. We got the driveway gang. All you guys that follow me and go out into your driveways and do some wrenching, figure you could pick up one of these from our Teespring store. There's a few other things that we just uploaded on there, a bunch of stickers that we've added. Let me see what I can pull up here. We've got the iron block sticker, our watermark logo, the driveway gang sticker. We've got some shirts on there, some pouches, not a whole ton of stuff. We revised a lot of it. There's GST and GSX bags, all that fun stuff. If you guys want to support the channel, you can hop on here, pick up a sticker, pick up a t-shirt, and that money will go straight back into doing more work on this thing and putting out some more content for you guys. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed it, and until next time, I guess we'll see you back here for some more ECMLINK fun, hopefully a speed density video, and then we can go take this thing for a rip down the road and see what all our hard work has gotten us. So if there's anything else that you guys would like me to cover or try to cover in ECMLINK, drop a comment below. If there's something that I did wrong that you know is wrong and you know the right way of doing it, let me know. I would love to learn more about this program. This is simply me showing what I've learned to you, and hopefully it helps you guys out in some way. I'm not 100% sure if everything I say on this is correct, but from what I can gather from all the reading and all the videos I've watched and all that stuff, some of this stuff, it makes a lot of sense, and I'm hoping that you guys get it too. So don't be too scared to have some fun with your vehicles. Always be careful when you're going out, ripping on it for the first time. Definitely keep an eye on your knock. Definitely go under the dash tab and turn that knock CEL at 2. So if you get 2 degrees of knock, your check engine light flashes at you and warns you, that'll save a motor and save a piston or whatever it could save. It's better than having to spend $5,000 on rebuilding a motor. So anyways, guys, I really hope this helps those of you who are looking forward to getting a more in-depth explanation for some of this stuff. And keep logging. If you have any other questions or want me to cover something else, drop it down below. And until next time, have fun boosting, have fun wrenching. I'll see you guys right back here in the driveway for another one. Adios, driveway gang.